Hello everyone, welcome again to another series of video from Electronics Eternity. This time around we will be looking at our second part of our stock picker using API. If you could remember in our previous video we did uh, our first part of a stock picker using API, and in that particular video we did cover cash flow assessment for selected stocks. The program that we developed using ESP32 while accessing API makes cash flow assessment for any number of stocks easy and usable for our stock selection, right? So this video is going to be a second part of that video, and in that video we will be looking at comparison between current asset and current liabilities. So I feel that current asset versus liability comparison would be a good addition in assessment of our stocks on top of the cash flow assessment that we already have, which makes our stock picker even more comprehensive, right? So that is the reason why I would like to have another one financial calculation or metrics of calculation in our stock picker so that it appears to be more comprehensive. Similarly, you can have as many financial calculation metrics that you want in your stock picker. You just have to figure out the mathematics behind it and how you can do it, what sort of data that you need to extract from your API, and how you can subsequently code those mathematical operations and logical reasonings into your ESP32 code, and then ESP32 will be able to do the task in an automated manner where you don't have to manually do the calculations, right? So that's the whole purpose, so that things are made easy for us and we have a stock picker that is ready to go and seamless to use, right? Okay, without further delaying, let's jump into the code. So the code is exactly similar to what we had in our first video. So it's just that at the very end of it, we have a new function being added, and the name of that function is balance sheet, right? So this is the function that will be performing the comparison between current asset and liabilities. So at the beginning, we simply have uh, a serial print line saying our starting balance sheets analysis. Let me see. Right, so it's quite similar to the white cash flow. It basically says starting void cash flow. Whereas in this balance sheet function, it says starting balance sheet analysis. It's quite similar. So what do we have here? We basically have the header and the footer of our URL. So this URL is basically the URL for our API, where our ESP32 will make a connection to it and then retrieve the values that we need, right? So in order to get information such as current asset and liabilities, this is the URL, right? So for an example, let me just show you how it looks. You just take the header, right? Just take the header and then you add the ticker. The ticker in this example is Apple, and right, so this is the whole URL string. This is how it looks, right? So regardless of whatever ticker that you put in the function, where you can put over here. So you have your ticker over here, right? So Apple and MediaWorks. Okay, so regardless of whatever ticker that you put in your function over here, it will take that one by one and it will append to this URL, and the ESP32 will try to connect with this URL, right? So which is why we have our concatenate function over here. It will add the header to the ticker, and then the same will be added to the footer. So which gives us one whole complete URL string. So once we have gathered that, then of course, if you want to see how it looks like, you could always uncomment this part and you would be able to see the whole URL address, right? So next is we would declare our HTTP client as HTTP. We would begin the connection as we have talked about over here. So we will begin the connection and we will add header. So a header will have the API key. API key is needed when you are trying to perform extensive functions. Let's just say you have a large number of a large number of stock tickers, then you will need your API key, right? So if it's just for basic, like you're trying to get tickers of Apple, Nvidia, or Microsoft, it should be very basic, and therefore you don't have to really put your API key over here. So next is we have our HTTP code over here. So it will get the HTTP code. If the code is anything greater than 0, then we will assume that we have a good response. We take the payload and sorry, we take the response from the API URL, was stored in the payload, and all that we're doing over here, we're just massaging the payload so that it is comprehensible by our JSON function that we have. If you still remember, we have a JSON library incorporated to our program, and the JSON string needs to be in a certain format so that the function could recognize and deserialize it accordingly. So deserializing basically gives us the individual informations that we need, that which we will then construct a certain mathematical operation with those values, and we would say if a stock is doing good or if a stock is doing bad based on our interpretation, right? So if you would like to know how the payload looks like before and after, you just have to uncomment these two sections and you would be able to see the difference, right? So that you understand why we're doing this. We're just basically massaging the response to a better format that is understandable by the JSON function. So we're basically passing the payload to char array. So to a char array names JSON, and this is the string length. So this is basically string length plus one. And if there is any deserialization errors, then it would throw the error over here, right? So if it doesn't, then we would go to the next part where we have certain variables. So one is character and two of it is float. So character will basically a character named stock will basically hold the ticker, and we would then have current assets in a float named current asset, current liabilities in a float named current liabilities. We will print out all these values, right, for our reference, and we would perform an addition. Sorry, we would perform a division with this, right? So if current asset divided by current liabilities, and we would print the final value. If the value is greater than 1, which basically says current asset is bigger than current liabilities, then we would say the balance sheet is good. If it's less than 1, then we would say balance sheet is bad, right? So that is the whole operation over here. And if we don't have any errors, so this is basically an if for this, right? So if everything goes well, it will perform this series of codes that we have over here. If not, it would say we have an error on our HTTP request. That is when we need to go and check back our URL. So we end the connection, and then we print a blank line, and we allow a delay for 1 second, right? So the code is pretty simple, simply because current asset and current liabilities comparison is pretty straightforward, and therefore the code and the function is pretty straightforward. Unlike cash flow, we have a bit of more, how do I say this? We have more complex calculation because we have few years worth of cash flow, and we have to compare it with previous years, and we have 3 years in comparison. So it's a bit more complex. Now let's look at the result, and we see how it looks with these three stocks that we have. So let's look at the results. So I have run the code, and this is the return that I've got. So I've stopped the auto scrolling just to prevent it from running it again, right? So let's see the results. So at the beginning over here, we have connecting to here and there. So we have Wi-Fi connected successfully and we're starting white cash flow. And we have cash flow for Apple as our first ticker. We have the three uh, subsequent years, right? So we have the three consecutive years and this is the cash flow values. And it will perform a comparison with these 3 years. It will 2022, sorry, 2024 will compare with 2023 and 2023 will compare with 2022, like what we have discussed in our first video, and it will tell if the cash flow is good, right? So and for Apple, it turns out to be good. And subsequently, we're starting the balance sheet analysis. This is the ticker again because we started with Apple, and then now we're going to balance sheet from cash flow. So we have the current asset, current liabilities. The value is 0.82, right? So this could be a shocker, but then I guess it is what it is for this particular quarter or for the trailing 12 months. Okay. So it's close to one, but it's not one yet. So it's being so our logical operation says that when it's not equal to or greater than one, we say it's bad, right? So let's look at the cash flow. So we have NVIDIA, the 3 years for NVIDIA cash flow comparison is good. And then next, we're going with current asset and then with current liabilities. So the comparison between these two is that current asset is 4 times the value, 4.44 times the value of current liabilities, and therefore we would say balance sheet is good. Next to our last ticker is Microsoft. So we have the 3 years of cash flow, and we go to our balance analysis. We have current asset, current liabilities. After we perform the division, we get 1.37, and it says the balance sheet is good, right? So this is how the response looks like, right? So I'm gonna just hit my enable button again. Sorry, I'm gonna hit my enable button again just so that you can see and I'm not just tampering with these values, all right? So I'm hitting the enable, so it's restarting the whole program. So I'm gonna show it to you how it looks like when it's running in real time. So as you can see, it's loading up, it's performing the cash flow for Apple, and that's there. And balance sheet analysis for Apple is done. Now we're going with NVIDIA, and we have NVIDIA cash flow is being generated, and now we have balance analysis for NVIDIA. Next, we're going with cash flow with Microsoft, and yeah, now that's balance sheet analysis for Microsoft, and as you can see, it successfully performs the whole function without any issues, right? So do not worry, I will give you the exact code that I'm using over here in my blog so that you could copy and experiment it on your own. You can make your tweets on your own and you can play around. You can even create your own functions so that it better suits your need, right? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and we have come to the end of the tutorial. I hope you have learned something new. Please don't forget to like and subscribe until we meet again. Thank you. Bye-bye.